Thank you, Jim. I first want to start off by thanking the people of South Carolina for sending Jim Clyburn to the United States Congress. Jim Clyburn is a special brother. So often I try to make our Congressional Black Caucus meetings, and the only reason I come is to hear what Jim Clyburn has to say. And I thank you, Jim, for being a visionary. Already today I have talked to so many young people that said Jim Clyburn was there for me. And if I wouldn't be where I am if Jim Clyburn had not been there for me. And I thank you for lifting up so many people, including yours truly. And if you ever want to appreciate history, all you've got to do is listen to Jim Clyburn for a few minutes, and he'll lay it out to you. But the thing I love so much about Jim is not only is he a brilliant man, but he is a man of compassion. And he synchronizes his conscience with his conduct. And so I just want you all to give him another round of applause. And I thank you for just being you, being who you are. I'm not going to be long because Jim's already warmed it up now. It's hot up here. But I wanted to come by to thank all of you for being here. I told Jim that when I look out, I didn't expect all this diversity. But I can tell you, I am so pleased to see the diverse crowd that is here today. And I know that Jim Clyburn believes in this because everything he does in the Congress and in his life, he believes and understands that diversity is not our problem. It's our promise. It's our promise. We come here on this earth only for a short while. And guess what? I don't care how many times you run track, how much tofu you eat, how many jumping jacks you do. 100 years from now, none of us will be here. 100 years ago, none of us were here. And so what we must be about the business of is lifting each other up so that we might live the best life that we can. You know, as Congressman Clyburn talked about the Affordable Care Act, he didn't tell you how hard he worked for that. He did not tell you how he fought hard to make sure that community health centers got proper funding. He didn't tell you that. He didn't tell you that meeting after meeting after meeting, he stood up for those who are so often unseen, unnoticed, unappreciated, and unapplauded. Stood up for those who often have no voice. And so he's right. The Affordable Care Act is so much more than a website. I find it amazing, as I know he does, that back in 2005, when we had the rollout of Medicare Part D prescription program, we had all kinds of problems with the website. But yet and still, a lot of our Republican friends back then, because it was a Bush issue, they said, you know, let's work it out. Let's be patient. We can get through this. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to keep in mind that this is a moment in history. We will get past the glitches, but no longer will being a woman will be a pre-existing condition stopping people from getting insurance. No longer will little children born with ailments that they had nothing to do with be precluded from being on an insurance policy. No longer will people, because they've gotten certain treatment over a certain time, be limited in the amount of care they can get. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a moral issue. This is a moral issue. Health care should not be limited to somebody, a few people, as a privilege, but it must be a right. Yeah. To Jamie Harrison, to all of those who are elected officials, to Brother Shaheen, I'm telling you that we have got a fight on our hands. Just a few weeks ago, we watched as some folks shut down the government. Ladies and gentlemen, we're a better country than that. And if there's somebody taking my picture, tweet this. Our country cannot afford to be threatening the full faith and credit of the United States of America. We're better than that. We are better than shutting down our government so that people cannot get their benefits and people cannot go to the parks and people cannot do the things that they would normally do in government employees. Many of them making $30,000 told that they have to stay home when they want to come out and lift up their country and lift up people. We're simply better than that. And so, we've got work to do. We've got work to do, but I want to leave you with just a few little thoughts. Congressman Clyburn talked about my mother and father. The congressman did something for me that I will never forget. It will go with me to my grave. Right after I got elected back in 1996, Congressman Clyburn invited me back to Manning, South Carolina, to Paxville, to the Mount Zero Missionary Church. And he did that. I don't know why he did it, but it was one of the greatest moments of my parents' life and mine. My parents had been former sharecroppers in Manning, South Carolina. They had left South Carolina in the early 1940s to come to Baltimore. And they came for one reason. They wanted to make sure that their 7 children, who had not even been born yet, got an education. And so on that night, that rainy night, when Congressman Clyburn invited my mom and my dad and yours truly back, my father, after the ceremony was over, came to me and said, "This is the greatest moment of my life. I never dreamed when I was picking cotton that my son would return to my home as a congressman in the Congress of the United States of America. I never dreamed it." Why am I telling you that story? I'm telling you because the people who are sitting in this audience and those who came before you, those who are like-minded, stood up so that little Elijahs could grow up to get to where I've gotten to. But ladies and gentlemen, we've got to make sure that we continue this fight. Congressman Clyburn will tell you that this country has all kinds of enemies. Terrorists all over the place. But ladies and gentlemen, the greatest threat to our national security is our failure to properly educate every single one of our children. That's the threat. And so it's you that have stood up and stood out. And I know you get tired sometimes. I know you never see your name in the newspaper. You don't even see it in the local shoppers special. They never mention your name on NPR. But I have stopped by here to tell you that this is bigger than us. This is not about us. It is bigger than us. My mother, who's 87 years old now, I talk to my mother every day. So finally I got the nerve clobber and ask her a question. I say, Ma, why is it that you've never said congratulations to me? I said, when I got out of special ed, you didn't say congratulations. When I went to law school, you didn't say congratulations. What's that about, Ma? When I got to the Congress, I thought you would have said congratulations then. She said, son, I didn't say congratulations intentionally because it's not about you. It's not about you. She said, if you notice, when I run into somebody at the drugstore and they say, your son helped me get my Social Security payment, I call you about that. She said, if you notice, if I hear about a child getting a scholarship that you helped them get, I call you about that. She said, you got to remember when I met your daddy on that dusty road in South Carolina, when he looked at me, he said to himself, she gonna be my wife. When I looked at him, I said to myself, he gonna be my husband. She said, we did not know that we were thinking the same thing. She said, but we were chosen to marry each other. We were chosen to give birth to their 7 children. We were chosen to raise them up so that they can do the things that we could not do. Ladies and gentlemen, this is bigger than us. And we have got to understand it. And so I've come by here to ask you. No, I want to ask you, but asking is too cheap. I come to beg you to stay in the fight. Don't give up. No matter what Jim Clyburn just talked about Beth, talked about the 3 strikes out rule, and Jim is right. As long as there is breath in our bodies, as long as our minds are functioning, we must stand up for what we believe in. And sometimes we make the mistake of getting caught up in who we are fighting against, and we forget about what we're fighting for. Amen. What we're fighting for. And so I close now. I close and leave you with one simple little story. I had a very sad moment 2 weeks ago, Jim. I've had 3 mentors in my life. One of them died about 10 years ago, and then another one died 2 weeks ago. And this was a man that gave me my first job as a lawyer. And his wife had called me about 4 months ago, maybe 5, and said, Gerald's sick, he's getting ready to die. I don't know how many of you all have ever gotten that call. But Jim, I called my pastor because I'd never been there. I'd never visited anybody that I knew was going to die. And so I went and I said, Pastor, what do you do when you go see somebody that's about to die? He said, well, you do three things. One, be there. Leave your cell phone in the car. If you think it's going to take you 2 hours, set aside 4. Number 2, he said, tell him everything that he meant to you. And number 3, he said, no matter how bad he looks, you must keep an image of hope on your face. So I went and I saw my friend, and he was shaking like a leaf. And this is a man of the stature of a Colin Powell. And then when I got into the room, he was shaking, and he said, Elijah, and I was not used to this. This was one of the most distinguished lawyers in Maryland. And he said, Elijah, how you doing? And I said, I'm doing good, Joe. I said, let's sit down. And we began to talk, and I began to tell him about all that he had done for me, how he had touched my life. And Jamie, I said to him, I said, Gerald, I know there was 6 or 7 people that were more qualified than me when you gave me that job back there in 1976 as a lawyer. I said, Gerald, why did you choose me? I said, there were so many people that were so much more qualified than me. Elijah, you're wrong. It wasn't 6, wasn't 7, about 10 of them. Hurt my feelings. I said, but why did you give me the job? He said, I gave you the job because I saw something in you. You couldn't dress worth a damn, and you look bad, and you're stuttering and stuff. I remember myself when I was your age. I said, I can help this boy. I'm telling you this for a reason. And so we talked a little bit further, and I continued to tell him about how much he meant to me. And then he kept saying, I'm falling asleep, I'm falling asleep. And so he finally fell off to sleep. And I said, I'm going to tip out of here right now. I'm going to get away. And the last thing he'll remember is seeing me smiling, and I'll remember him sleeping. So I got to the door, Jamie, and the next thing I hear, Elijah, where you going, man? So I turned around, and he said, he came and he almost fell, Clyburn, and he grabbed me, and I kept him from falling, and he looked up, he said, I just got one thing I want to tell you. He said, what's that committee you be on? I said, the oversight committee. I just want you to know I be watching you, man. What's that boy name? That Republican. I said, Isa? Yeah, Isa. He said, man, you be kicking his ass. I said, well, thank you, Gerald. I said, you taught me all that. But then, so he went back and he sat down, and he just said, I'm so proud that I was a part of your destiny. But then, about a half an hour later, I'm about 4 hours into the meeting now, I'm about to tip out again. I get out the door, and I hear a cry. Where you going, man? Come on back in here. We just got started. And I knew that he was trying to hang on because he knew that we would never see each other again. And he came back and he said, I got one more request. I got one request. I said, what's that, Gerald? He said, I just want you to do my eulogy. I don't live long. I just want you to do my eulogy. I said, Gerald, I'll do it. I just got one more thing to tell you. And this is what I want to leave with you. He grabbed my face And he said, yes, I'm so glad that I was a part of your destiny. But he said, I'm glad that you were a part of mine. Oh, God. He said something. In other words, what he was saying was part of his destiny, was to come upon the earth and make a difference. That's why Jim Clyburn is the man he is. You look at Jim and you say, oh, he's giving, giving, giving. This is what his destiny is all about. Lifting people up, making a difference, allows him to feed his soul. That's what Gerald was saying, and that's what you do every day. By your giving and your standing up for the principles that are right, the ones that we read about in the Bible, it allows you to feed your soul. That's why you feel good when you see a candidate win that you know is going to stand up for the right things. That's why you feel good when you go to a graduation and see young people going out in the world and doing great things. That's why you felt good and you celebrated when President Barack Obama was elected twice, because it feeds your soul. And so we have a mission. We got work to do. We got work to do. Whether it's in South Carolina or whether it's in Baltimore, we've got work to do. And we have got to be like the soldiers. We're soldiers. My mom, after she would do days work as a domestic, she'd come home late at night sometimes and soak her feet in Epsom salt. Yeah. And she didn't know that I heard her, Jim. But she had her own national anthem. She would sing a song, and I know I could hear her crying sometimes, 12 o'clock at night. She would sing, we are soldiers in the army. We got to fight, although we have to cry. We have to hold up the bloodstained banner. We have to hold it up until we die. That's what this is all about. This is not about you. This was never about you. This is about generations yet unborn. Thank you.